everybody.
lectures and stuff.
I'd like to learn healing from my wife's grandmother, Marion. My wife's grandmother, Badia Rachel Shokat, who's affectionately known as Mama G. Mama G, and she's Mama G. So she should dance till 120.
Is there Shem? I also have for a little girl who's in the
Please.
hospital. Her name is Ora Bat Ravit.
Ora Bat Ravit. Refuah Shlema, Tocha Cholei. All right. Did people had learning chavrutas worked out a little bit?
Yeah.
Try.
It wasn't enough time.
Just when you met nowadays.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We just need a better plan. But it's
Okay. So they're working on it. Noga said before that there was something very special about feeling that there was a chavura thinking about the same issues, and even the fish conversation really excited me that people were getting together Hilchot Shabbos Kodesh thinking about preparing. We're talking about hachanas for Shabbos, the first seif of Siman of Torah Shulchan Aruch, and we saw that people need to inspire themselves to be enthusiastic about preparing for Shabbos the whole week. You know, certainly the Baal Shem Tov in Kitisa says Becharish uVekatzir Tishbot, and Charish, Chamishi, Revi'i, Shishi, that the 3 days that have the light from the next Shabbos, right, the Ruach and then the Nefesh and the Ruach and the Neshama for the next Shabbos, those 3 days are really the most intensely. But really, there's another level. I think there's 3 levels of hachana. There's one from already Motzei Shabbat. Shabbos Mincha, we start the next parsha. Motzei Shabbos is a nice custom. There's a lot of the Sephardim do of beginning a little bit of the Zohar of the next parsha. Motzei Shabbos. It's a nice custom. I've seen it a few places. But already Yom Rishon is the chesed that builds up to the next Shabbos, and Yom Sheni is the Gvura that builds up to the next Shabbos. Yom Shlishi is the Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Shabbos is the Malchut, the Kala. So there's one level that we prepare already from the beginning, from one Motzei Shabbos to the next. And one level begins on Wednesday when we start really saying Shabbat Shalom and Shabbos, and we receive already the Nefesh Ruach on Thursday and the Neshama on Friday from next Shabbos. And there's another level of Yom Shishi. And this Reish Mem Bet is not talking specifically yet until the end. The Ramah begins talking about Yom Shishi. But the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch are talking about constant consciousness of Shabbos, preparing for Shabbos. Either taking loans. Remember, we ended last week, I think we were talking about the Yerushalmi that says you could take ribit loans. You could take a loan that has ribit for Tzorchei Shabbos. The commentaries there, Pnei Moshe and the Korban Ha'eda say that it's only ribit Rabbanan. Remember, ribit Rabbanan would be something like where you're not sure that the value of $100 is going to change, but it gets more valuable, those $100. So even if you give back $100, it's not ribit oraita. You're not giving back 110, but those $100 are more valuable. It's interest d'Rabbanan. The Mishnah Berurah. Did you see the Mishnah Berurah this week? We talked about. So he talked about ribit deheter, not ribit d'Rabbanan. Ribit deheter is with what's called a heter iska, right? It's when the lender and the lendee make a deal together that they're going to share they're going to basically invest together and share the fruits of their labor, and it becomes not a loan, and it's not a loan at all. It becomes sort of a business deal. That's how people with banks in Israel do heter iska. The only problem with that is if you don't own anything, like let's say it's brought in the tshuvas about a yeshiva boy or a seminary girl who don't have any real of their own property, you need to have some of your own property for the heter iska to be valid. So the poskim say that it's good to rent a room from your parents, or something like that if you want to do that heter iska. So we saw that we have to be lizarez tatzmo, we have to be enthusiastic, even to take out loans. We saw the argument in the Beit Yosef about, on one hand, ta'aseh Shabbatcha chol, like keep it simple on Shabbos and don't rely on somebody else. And the other, you saw it in the Gemara?
Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah. On one hand, ta'aseh Shabbatcha chol, if you, instead of relying on other people's goodwill or loans, be mitzamtzem, have a more simple Shabbos. But on the other hand, we have a thing that take out loans. Ulevu alai banai vidnu madanai. Take out loans for the sake of Shabbat, whether one way or the other. It's nice. Aseh Shabbatcha chol. The Hasidim say that it means if you're thinking about Shabbos, your mei chol already have the light of Shabbos, right? Your mei chol already have the light of Shabbos. That's what we're basically just reviewing a couple things from the end of last time. Didn't get to really finish it up. So, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with let's open the Mishnah Berurah, a couple of things before we get to. Oh, you wanted to start with the Gemara? We start with the Gemara. What did you learn in the Gemara that was interesting?
I think we started in the wrong place. But
Right, the Kuf Yud Zayin.
Kuf Yud Zayin to Kuf Yud Tet.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kuf Yud Zayin to Kuf Yud Tet was where we
were rescuing stuff from a fire. I think we started a little earlier.
Yeah, Nachon.
And then
Yeah, that was the Mishnah, right? The rescuing stuff from the fire, and then that's when all of a sudden they start talking about how many meals do you have to have on Shabbos, and we're not going to get into that right now because it's not in our siman.
Okay.
Which siman were the Resh Mem?
Resh Mem Bet, the
Right.
first siman of
Yeah,
Hilchot Shabbat according to the Torah and Shulchan Aruch. But no, I'd like to, for a second before we open this, to the Gemaras that are the basis for all this preparation for Shabbos stuff, if there's anything came out of that.
What the Kuf Yud Zayin was?
Yeah, Kuf Yud Zayin till Kuf Yud
I think
Tet.
one question was...
That's where the tour, why am I asking this? That's where the tour got all of those inspiring things in the beginning that we did last week.
Okay.
That Shabbat is, you keep Shabbat, Nachala Bli Meitzarim, it's like an inheritance with no boundaries. Somebody who keeps Shabbat is as if, even if he did Avodah Zarah, he's Mochalin Lo. And we talked about that Shabbat is sort of endless emunah and bound, the light of Olam Haba and all these things activating our emunah, so it wipes out any of those things.
I think each rabbi was special to keep one specific mitzvah.
That was nice, right?
Yeah. And I read over Shabbat and I don't remember what the details were, but.
So one Rav would sweep the floor, one would bring in the Shabbos dishes, one would chop the vegetables really fine.
Right, sitting on every stool to light the fire versus bringing a dirty
smock. Setting up exactly. The most applicable for us in our siman of those things was the one who made the fish, who salted the fish. And you notice which kind of fish they chose? Shavute. It's same sounding as Shabbat. Some of the commentaries say that it's like a fish that has the name Shabbat. Mm-hmm. So he made that fish special for Shabbat.
There's also the story of the Caesar who he asked what makes the food on Shabbat smell so good, and he says it's the Shabbat spice.
Yeah, it's brought in a few places. Some Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and some here it was not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, but. It's a famous. I know you try to eat cholent on Thursday night. It might be decent, but it's not the same, right?
But Shabbat is also a pun with dill, right, or something like that.
With shamir.
No, shevet or something.
Shavute, I think, was the kind of fish. Maybe. But all those, there's a list of things that basically, and we're going to get to that when we get to Reish Nun. The Shulchan Aruch talks about the importance of everybody doing your own Shabbat preparation, even if you could hire help, and they bring those different opinions, different case studies to show us what to do, that everybody should do their own preparation, even if you could get somebody else to do it. But that's not brought in Reish
Smoke their
Bet.
own logs.
What?
Smoke their own
Smoke their own logs, yeah. Or, the salting the fish, interesting, is also brought down by the Trumat Hadeshin. Trumat Hadeshin was before the Ramah. One of the major Ashkenazi posts came before the Ramah. Rabbi Israel Isserlin. Hadeshin is 365. The Gematria, he has 365 tshuvas. It's 365, Hadeshin? Yeah? Whatever it is, Hadeshin 354.
59, no?
Okay.
Hadeshin.
Basically, though he has those amount of tshuvas for one to learn each day of the week of the year. The Ashkenazi customs are primarily Maharil, Trumat Hadeshin. You'll see in the Ramah when we learn in the Mishnah Berurah Shulchan Aruch, you'll see often they'll bring from the Trumat Hadeshin, the Maharil, a few other poskim who came before Ashkenazi poskim from the generations before the Ramah. He was very important. He had a red tallis. So, yeah, I don't know, popped into my head one of the things about him, but...
So the official name of Dil is Shevet Rechani.
Shevet, okay.
So the Shevet Shabbat.
Shabbat, okay.
So,
Shkoach, thank you.
If you dill a shamir with
Yeah.
that fish, a shamir.
Yeah, shabute.
right.
But the salting the fish, the Trumat Hadeshin brings it down that it's an issue to salt the fish, Dafka to salt the fish.
Okay.
On Shabbos.
And before Shabbos, like to prepare by not only purchasing the fish but putting the salting on the fish. When you sprinkle the salt on the fish, has very deep significance.
Itai does that.
Itai?
He takes salmon and kind of like salts it. He like marinates it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like.
Yeah, it's the thing. Also, for sure. By the way, if you get the frozen stuff, to salt it for an hour with lemon and then rinse it off, and it gets rid of some of that frozen taste. Little advice I got from an old Sephardi lady in line. I was like, you get the frozen fish, come on, can't believe it. I'm sure it tastes delicious. What do you do? So she said you have to, for an hour, cover it with salt and squeeze the lemons all over it, and then wash it all off, get all that salt off, and then cook it after. So that was the advice I got from Rami Levi, anonymous Sephardi Safta. And I'm sure it works, but still there's something about it. But the salting of the fish, very special custom. Also the Maggid Mezrich did that, and the Balatanya did that. It's brought that of Shlomo of Karlin. A bunch of different Hasidic rabbis used to do that. Apparently, it wasn't just Rav Chizda, I think, was it? Rav Chizda in the Gemara. Remember who salted the fish? Rava salted the fish. So that was you ever had good fish in Shabbos?
Did I ever?
This past Shabbos, you had good fish.
I can't remember an hour ago.
Should I continue a little bit with the fish before we get into other things, or should we? Yeah.
Dalet and Gimel is 7.
Dalet and Gimel is 7. Dalet and Gimel is 7. Yeah. But also Dalet and Gimel.
That's a really cool.
If you're speaking about the letters, Dalet and Gimel is the Gemara talks about the different letters and what they mean, and Dalet is Dal. It's like the poor person, and Gimel is Gomel. So it's like taking from the weak when we feel like a little bit down and out, and turning into greatness, that's one opinion of the Dalet and Gimel. Another one is that brought down in the Sfarim HaKadoshim that the man is Zerah God,
Nice.
and it's the
Zerah
God.
Like coriander-ish.
Yeah, it's brought down that's one of the descriptions of the manna in the desert was that it was like this seed God.
What does God mean in Aramaic?
Well, no, it's in the Torah itself. But what does it mean in Aramaic? It's like coriander or some sort of like little seed. Some people say it was like this mineral that came out of the rocks, like this whitish little pellets that there's scientists and archaeologists who try find out what the natural thing was that could give them sustenance for 40 years in the desert. There's opinions, but that doesn't interest me right now. It's interesting, but what's more interesting here is that there's a connection between the fish and the man, the God and Dag, but it's a reversed order. So it's brought down in a lot of different Sfarim that the man comes from Shemayim, or it's like heavenly food, but the Dag comes from the water, inside the water, from us. We make it, and it's sort of it has a similar effect of ochel, food that's what's called he'arat haratzon. It illuminates the ratzon, the will. Ratzon is connected to oneg. They're both in the mystical systems, right? There's inner dimensions of each of the sfirot, right? And keter, the highest, is emuna, oneg, and ratzon. Emuna, oneg, and ratzon are the inner characteristics or traits, experiences of keter, right? Where like tiferet would be emet or rachamim and bitachon. There's different. Each one has its own inner experience. So ratzon and oneg. So when we have fish on Shabbos, it lights up our ratzon. It lights up the inner aspect of the Most High light coming down. But we have to ignite it before Shabbos. And Shabbat it happens no matter what. You can even if you don't have fish, you have a piece of bread, whatever it is. Rabbi Natan talks about a few places that achila, holy eating, ignites he'arat haratzon, illuminates the will, illuminates this the inner dimension of keter, and that happens with also the man. It happens. The man is the classical example of holy eating, and here we are with the fish on Shabbos. Dag, God. Okay, I found dozens. I'm not dozens, but more than 10 reasons of fish on Shabbos in the books.
I have a question about this from the Gemara.
Sure. Oh, sure.
So it says that Rav Papa's son said that we have meat and wine every day, so what are we supposed to do special for Shabbat? And his answer is make your long meals short and your short meals long, whatever.
Do something different.
Right.
Do different, right?
So
Papa was very wealthy. He was
Yeah, yeah.
He is a
So is
distillery.
there a reason why he's not saying to eat fish? Like, I think if they're eating meat all the time, so now they should eat fish instead for Shabbat. But
Very good question.
no one.
I didn't see in the commentaries, but I'll try to look into it.
And fish you can eat raw, so you don't have to done it to tikkun on some level. So
Yeah, fish is not, it doesn't need shechting. We don't need it. We can eat its blood. We don't need to bury its blood. It's as soon as we take it out of the water, asifatan. It's also very deep. There's a lot of commentaries about this. That just taking it out is its tikkun, right? It's very mitukan. That's one of the reasons. Okay, so a few reasons why fish on Shabbat. Before we move on to the.
Sorry, one last question.
Oh, sure.
In the Talmud times, whatever, is fish cheaper than meat, or is meat? Because nowadays, like per pound, fish is actually more expensive than meat.
Right.
I don't know if that's just our modern shipping
I
system
think,
or
I think they back then also.
back then also.
No. Sorry.
The opposite.
The opposite. Fish.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is considered to be. There are sources that say fish is more pleasurable than meat,
Mm-hmm.
which okay. So what are the reasons of fish on Shabbat, and why do they bring it up here in the Magen Avraham? I sent it to you, right? The Magen Avraham, Rav Avram Gumbiner. You saw it? Did everybody see that?
We
You didn't see it? So the Magen Avraham, I'll just read it to you on Reish Mem Bet. On Reish Mem Bet. He, by the way, Rabbi Nachman loved him. He was Rabbi Nachman's favorite of the Achronim and really held by him. When I was going through some Shulchan Aruch with the Magen Avraham, I found dozens of places where he has Kabbalah in his halachic commentary. I was thinking about doing some sort of work on that and trying to, but I never did it. But the first halacha Magen Avraham brings in Hilchot Shabbat on the Shulchan Aruch, right? Magen Avraham, Rav Avram Gumbiner, lechabed et את השבת, ולא יפחות משני תבשילים, we shouldn't have less than 2 kinds of food, right? Everything in Shabbat is kaful, zachor v'shamor. There's even some Chabadnikim I saw even have 2 kinds of fish on Shabbos. To also, everything is kaful on Shabbos. Everything has to be doubled. So he says, lo yivchot mishnei tavshilim, it's based on a Zohar, uv'tikunei Shabbat, that's the Arizal stuff, sheyochal b'chol seuda migimel seudot dagim, ayin sham. Every Seudah of Shabbat should have its fish. Now, obviously it's brought down that if you don't like it, you don't have to, it doesn't force yourself. If you only have enough fish for one meal, there's a dispute whether it's better to have it Friday night, or Shabbat morning, or Seudah Shlishit. There's different customs from different communities. Customs. It's brought down in halacha, but this Kabbalistic tradition of fish on Shabbat. But he brings it for all 3 meals. He brings the Magen Avraham for all 3 meals. וצריך לומר דכל אחד לפי טבעו. It has to be according to your nature and what you really want. Don't be uptight about it, and don't go against your natural instincts, what you want to eat. But it's good to have fish at each meal. This is the first halach of Shabbos in the Magen Avraham, which I think is phenomenally wild. Okay, so that was what I sent this week to learn together. It's also good to see the Magen Avraham. We often learn with the Mishnah Berurah. He quotes it, but you don't always see it, and it's. I feel like there's something very special. You don't need me. Rabbi Nachman said there's something very special about the Magen Abraham's halachic commentary. So that's the Magen Avraham. And so I found a lot of reasons why fish on Shabbat. You know, there's one, the famous one from the Zohar is that the fish always have their eyes open. The fish never close their eyes. They don't have eyelashes. And so tzaddikim also are constantly aware. So when we eat the fish on Shabbat, it's supposed to help us become more God conscious in our lives, to have more ability to so often we're sleeping, we don't see always Hashem in our lives in all the little ways, and so the fish are constantly in the water. If the water is, the metaphor of the water is spirituality, is the ocean, the unity, every drop of water is together, is all one, and the fish doesn't even know that it's in the water, according to some people, right? Like the fish is just, that's its natural, and it doesn't need to search for the water, unless it's out of the water. But so that's one reason. Ena pakicha, it's called. Ena, in Aramit, ena pakicha, pokeach ivrim, pokeach einayim, open eyes. Fish are supposed to ignite us to have open eyes. Also, we know the Gemara says that in the future the Suda of Mashiach will be Livyatan, the Suda of Livyatan, which is a gigantic fish. So when we eat Shabbat fish, it's supposed to bring us closer to that messianic consciousness, the feeling that the Geula has already come in our lives. Shabbat, I'm having fish, I'm eating. Some of the Rebbes said that they said I'm not worried. I already tasted it. I'm not worried it's not going to taste good because I already tasted the fish, the messianic fish. I think it's wild. I think there's also brought down that Livyatan is from livui, or to connect, to company, chibur, to connect. Like Levi, why did Levi get his name? Because my husband will come, will join, connect with me, right? So the feeling of connection, of the feeling of everything is already perfect, everything is already geuladik. That's another thing of the fish. I just wrote down, I started jotting down today. Eov says, Veisapru lecha degei hayam, that the fish will tell you a story. It's in Eov, a couple of psukim, a beautiful psukim. Speak to the earth and it will teach you. The animals will guide you, I think it's a couple of beautiful psukim in Perek Bet in Eov. And the fish are supposed to somehow tell us a story. What story? Each of us, and I think each fish. The Arizal says that the fish are the Gilgulim of tzaddikim. And there was one time the Alter Rebbe, one of his students, started choking on a bone, and he said, you don't know yet how to connect with the Gilgul of the tzaddikim. It's hard to do a tikkun for these tzaddikim. So there's something about the stories that the fish can tell us that can, like Rabbi Nachman's Sipurei Masiot is the stories wake us up. The stories are supposed to be the stories. Some people tell stories to put the kids to sleep. We tell stories to wake ourselves up, right? And the Sfat Emet, his Higulas this week. I saw your eyes shine when I mentioned this at Rabbi Natan's Higula. That the Sfat Emet, before he died, he wanted them to read him Sipurei Masiot. That's the last thing he wanted to learn. Sfat Emet.
No, I was just gonna say I saw that. It was like so cool. And I had a special connection with Sfat Emet. And I happened to be sitting at a sudom, like with a Ger Chassid, and I asked him if he'd heard of this, and he said he had it. But he definitely said it's definitely known that like the Sfat Emet is held by like Rabbi Nachman.
Yeah.
Right?
It's brought down. I've seen it in the
I saw it also. Right, totally.
So Sipurim are supposed to wake us up. Sapir, the sapir is a stone that's supposed to illuminate. The sapphire, chokhmah. Speaking of chokhmah, the yam, where the fish come from, many times, not always. There's river fish, but lake fish, but.
Especially in Israel.
Especially in Israel. No, we have sea fish, right?
Just the one, I think.
The Dennis,
yeah.
Right? The sea bream.
Yeah.
Delicious. I
Yeah,
like it. But anyway, the yam is considered to be an element of chokhmah, of wisdom. And when we eat something that comes from the sea, it's supposed to illuminate our minds, to give us a new and enhanced chokhmah. That's another reason it's brought down. It was brought down that the fish weren't part of the sinning with the humanity before the Mabul, so they weren't. They had no taints of the Mabul. Think about creation. The fish are the first living creature, right? The first living creature. The first thing to get a bracha. The first bracha is fish. Rav Soloveitchik has a beautiful drasha about brachot in general, and he says that when you see that the fish get the bracha, what's a bracha? Pru, to expand. And he brings the Ramban, Ibn Ezra, that any kind of time we say a bracha, we're expanding the Shechina in this world. We say a bracha on a cup of tea, we're extending holiness into this experience. So the fish is the first bracha. Humans get the second bracha. Shabbat gets the third bracha. So the Chalban said that when we humans eat fish on Shabbat, it's a triple decker bracha that we're taking in. Fish, we're expanding the Shechina into ourselves. In Chulin, the Gemara says, "Ein trefa b'dagim." There's no dagim can't be. You find they don't have as much. There are diseased fish, but there's no. This fish, if it has its fins and scales, it's kosher. Even if it's, you don't have to check its lungs or gills to see if it's got any warts. And then there's no glut fish or not glut fish. It's all kosher. So what does it mean spiritually? It means that there's something very pure, primal, the first creature, no tainting, no flaws from the Mabul, less connected to the human balaganim. There's all these midrashim about the generation before the flood and what they were with their relationship with the animal world, and the fish were not part of that. The fish, the females lay the eggs, right? I don't know the biology of fish procreation, but there's something in the Hasidic books that say that the fish is like the itaruta from the awakening of the feminine, and on Shabbat, when the Shechina, the Shabbat Malka, the Krat Kala, also there's this awakening of certainly Friday night of the feminine energy. What else I saw?
There's the, I was gonna say the Ein Hara thing, right?
The Ein Hara, there's no Ein Hara that's with the fish. They're concealed. What's the siman of a fish being kosher? The kaskasim, right? The scales. There's no fish that has scales that doesn't have fins. So there's a whole question of why then you bring the fins also. So so here we get to Rabbi Natan. He has in Hilchot, Likutei Halachot and Dagim, there's 4 halachot. I'll skip to Rabbi Natan. I summarized it for you, 5 halachot, Hilchot Dagim. I summarized it. You can look at there yourselves, but it's really beautiful, I think. First of all, he talks about Eina P'kicha, that's the Zohar, the open eyes. He talked about Alma Da'ati, the future world, the world, thinking about the world to come, and that is Leviathan. Yeah. He talks about Mayim Le'yam Mechasim, that is covering with God awareness, like in the Mashiach days. He talks about that the fish, Vayid Gularov, Yosef Atzadik, his blessing is Vayid Gularov, to be flourishing like the fish. Right, so there's something about the tzaddik that's connected to fish. So he talks about kaskasim, the scales, is an aspect of livushim or tzimtzum. It's like holding in melochol haaretz kevodo. He says there that we can have all this great spiritual light. You can have the light of Shabbos, but if you don't have kalim for it, how do you really take it in? How do you materialize the spiritual? How do you? So we need to have these scales are supposed to hold it all together. The scales on the fish, and the snapir, the fins are the etzot. Why do we have to have mentioned fins if everyone with scales has the etzot? Where the fins help the fish move around, right? So it's the etzot, where to go. So when we eat fish on Shabbos, it's supposed to first of all help us hold all of our spiritual energy, but it's also supposed to help us to know where to go in our lives.
It's like
Napa, of course.
right?
Herat Haratzon, yeah. That's the beginning of Nekuda. And then after you have the Herat Haratzon, you need Etzot. Okay, what do I do with all this light? Okay, my light is ignited, but what do I do with it? So the fish are supposed to help us to bring all this spiritual stuff down to our lives. Tell us the story about what we could do in our lives to make our lives more. Also, kaskasim are related to tzedakah and spreading our the goodness. I think I want to move on in a second. There's so much more. I could one day maybe a chapter, but the tzaddik is his name is Dag. The tzaddik's name mechune b'shem Dag. Tzaddik mechune b'shem Dag. We eat the fish, remember your tzaddik. Remember the little inner tzaddik in you that the fish is supposed to perk up our inner righteous. He says Yoshua bin Nun. Nun is Aramaic for fish. Yoshua is the son of Nun. Nun is the tzaddik. Moshe Rabbeinu is the spiritual father of Yoshua. Moshe Rabbeinu is the fish. Minamayim mishitiu. He's drawn from the water. He's drawn from the water. So Moshe Rabbeinu energy, Yeshua bin Nun energy. There's more. There's more. I think we should pause with the fish because we have to get. It's brought down. This is important. No, this is really important. It's brought down in the Rokeach Sefer Halacha Rishonim of the Rishonei Ashkenaz that a wedding feast should have fish. and Shabbat is a wedding. So the Be'er Hetev brings it down in Even Ezer. And a Shabbat should be like a wedding feast, l'chadodi, l'krat kala. We're getting married, cosmic wedding, Am Yisrael and Hashem. So we should have fish, and I guess it's also fish reproduce the way they. The other thing is it's brought in the Gemara in a couple places, and in the Yerushalmi, beginning. I looked. Thank you, inspired me to get back into Yerushalmi. It's brought down that the fish, most fish at least, I don't know if it's true of all fish, they don't chase down and eat a fish from behind. They just open their mouth and it pops right in. Right? The big fish just open their mouth. The plankton, I guess the whale's not a fish, but the big fish, they're swimming along, and Hashem, they know where to. I guess their instincts or their eitzot tell them where to go to get the little fish, but they just swim along, and the food goes in. I don't know if it's if a fish expert would agree with that, but there's something to it, at least spiritually, that we're supposed to remember that whatever we have on Shabbat is Hashem's giving it to us directly. We might think we've chased it, but it's really Hashem's just put it right in our mouth on a silver platter. Even if we're working hard for it, it's a little matana from Hashem.
There's also the section of Bui Kala, and welcoming the Malka.
Yeah, that's the source for Kabbalat Shabbat. Right?
Yeah.
To go out, that's why we step out to the fields. That's what they did in the Gemara and the Arizal. All right, so there's a few more things, but I think that we should. I do want to say one thing. The halachic that the Bach says, and it's not brought down in most Sfarim, that it's good to make the fish half an hour before Shabbos. I follow that. It's not by choice, but it's like the fish. It's like the last thing. There's something about the fresh fish that can't be beat, right? So it's brought down in the Bach on the tour. Not in our siman, in a different siman. Later on in a few simanim, that it's good to have that last half hour before Shabbos. Also, we know that there are certain demonic creatures that are trying to ruin our Shalom Bayit. Friday afternoon.
And I had to smell the fish.
כן.
שמישהו מכם? שבוע לצפר.
להזיז את זה?
כן, אתה חוסם לי את החניה שלי.
מצטער, לא ידעתי.
See by,
What?
you can see, I think by like listening to fish, right? While you're dishes and stuff for Shabbos.
Yeah. Oh, I never connected. I never connected.
There's a brachas, samoy mila'ayin, something.
Yes, exactly.
Covered and secret, and
that's
you don't
brought
see
down.
the fish. You see the chicken, see the
You
cow.
see everything, but you don't see the fish until it's brought. Yeah.
Totally hidden.
So there's talking about the hidden tzaddik. It's brought down that there's a revealed tzaddik and a hidden tzaddik, and also the fish have the kaskasim, it hides it. The scales hide its inner essence, but also it's covered by the water. So it's
So what's the answer? Why do we need fins? Why don't we just say scale?
for the eitzot. Rabbi Nathan says for the eitzot. That it's not enough to have hold the light. We need to know what to do with it. So the fins represent movement and direction. Where do you want to
Wouldn't
go?
you also get confused with like an alligator or something? Alligator, you might think it's a fish because it's in the water, but
Swordfish are like that. Swordfish have scales only when they're
When
young.
they're babies,
And then
yeah.
they shed them, and they so that's like the big.
Yeah, there was a debate. I know in the conservative
They
Chuvas.
say it's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
What?
so
There were massados again,
I
no?
don't remember where it is, but one of the things says that when you light Shabbat candles, you have until you can cook a small fish to do malacha. That's how much time you
That's
have.
how we get
Right.
the certain amount of time, right?
Yeah, this is from how long it takes
Yeah.
to cook a small fish.
Yeah, so some people say 18 minutes, some people say half an hour.
So maybe we're supposed to be cooking a fish 18 minutes before Shabbat.
Yeah. Pardes Chana, we do half an hour. We do. We do. It has anyway. So let's get back to the end of the Siman of Shulchan Aruch. We just got to the Ramah. We're on the second page. So we did last week Aseh Shabbat Chachol, Al Titzarech Labriot.
What's on around?
The Siman Reish Mem Bet. It's the first Siman of Hilchot Shabbat. The first Siman of Hilchot Shabbat. It's cool. It's cool. That's cool. Next time you can say, you're welcome to come.
I know, I wanted to say something, but I don't think he was in the mood.
Yeah.
Now you want to do it.
Very small section
Really
of
have
Shulchan
this
Aruch.
Mitakanat Ezra. Mitakanat Ezra.
Where are we?
The Siman Reish Mem Bet. We're like halfway. We're almost at the Ramah. We're in the Shulchan Aruch. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's one more. Here. Yeah. Mitakanat Ezra. שיהיו מחפשים בגדים בה' בשבת מפני כבוד השבת. It's from the time of Ezra when they came back to Eretz Israel and there was a lot of intermarriage, there was lack of Shabbat observance. They made a series of takanot, of decrees to enhance Jewish life. That's around the time of when Judaism essentially became moved from being a cultic religion where the Kohanim did everything for us, or spiritual, but it became like a home-based religion where that's the time that Knesset Adola were mitaken, Kiddush, Havdalah, Tefillot, home-based and personal. It's not a vicarious religion any longer. I don't know if it was ever a vicarious religion, but that's what the scholars say, the historians. They say at the time of Ezra they were making it more personal. Even when there was a second Beit HaMikdash, it was already, there were more home rituals.
Putting your hand on the korban isn't very vicarious.
No, that's experiential and direct, but the concept of the korbanot tamid, the daily offerings being my offering, your offering, it's a communal offering, and now there was a lot more personal things getting in. So Ezra was mitaken a bunch of things, including eating garlic on Fridays to get the libido. It's good for libido. It says this in the Gemara. And one of them was the takanot was to do laundry on Thursday. Mipnei kavod Shabbat. What is the mipnei kavod Shabbat? The Mishnah Brura, little number hey. It's right about halfway through the Mishnah Brura. Hainu kedei sheyiyu levanim leShabbat. אבל לא בערב שבת, כדי שיהיו פנויים להתעסק בצורכי שבת. So, there's two reasons. One, that we should have clean clothes, white clothes on Shabbat. Right? Remember the Zohar says it's asur to wear black on Shabbos. I once asked a Hasidic fellow, he said, no, this is not black, it's shiny. Don't you see it? It's really lavan. Those like sparkly coats. But, okay. I'm not saying it's not true to wear black on Shabbos. The Zohar says it. I don't say it. I say there are some people who say it's colored, some people say white, some people say there's three main sources: colored, white, and some people actually do say black. Not the Zohar, but it's most sanua and most it doesn't stain. You don't see the stains on it. But here the Shulchan Aruch says it's so that you do laundry on Thursday, so you have nice white clothes for Shabbos. Nice, clean, white clothes for Shabbos. But he brings a second reason, and there's some of the people of our generation are learning that there's two aspects to this takana, and that's why it's important to say this, because we have a question.
Chavetz Chaim wore all white on Shabbos?
No, I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
But maybe four, look, the Arizal says wear 4 white garments on Shabbos, Yud Kei Vav Kei.
White socks.
White socks is a Hasidic custom to bring even the whiteness, the purity, down to our feet, like to the lowest part of our body. It's a very special minhag. Four white garments, and when you're putting them on, there's even a certain angel that Zayin Hey Resh Yud Aleph Lamed, from the angel of radiance that we can think of when we're putting on our white clothes for Shabbat. Kippah, tzitzit, undershirt, underwear, yeah. But there's actually, the Arizal talks about the chaluk, elyon, tachton, but on Shabbos in the winter, the Arizal would wear an undershirt that was colored, even red, like I guess it was like gatkes, the Arizal's gatkes. Can't believe it.
Why red? They
What?
have to wear red?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe that was just the color, I don't know why.
And the old shows all the
So
thermal underwear is red.
red is
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what they always show.
so wait, so he says two reasons. One, you should have white clothes, and two, that you should be panui l'asot tzorchei Shabbat on Yom Shishi, that you should be free to take care of Shabbat needs on Friday. Why is this important? Because we have in our generation laundry machines. Can you do laundry in laundry machines on Erev Shabbat on Friday? Or is it a violation of Takanat Ezra? Why would you think yes?
Because it's not as much avodah going
Not
into
so
it.
hard.
It's not so hard, A. The point is to have your clean clothes ready for Shabbos. So if you started on Friday afternoon doing laundry in the biblical times of Ezra, you wouldn't have them ready for Shabbos. They'd be wet. You know.
You don't have a dryer.
You didn't have a dryer. So on one hand, it's not so much work. Shoving it in the laundry machine, 5 minutes. How long does it take? And the other, and also the full, okay. and the point is to have clean white clothes on Shabbos, and also to have time on Friday to prepare. So the Shmirat Shabbat Hilchot brings down that it's okay now to do laundry on Friday if we have laundry machines, because when we have a takana that has a reason given, that's clearly with a reason, and the reason goes away, then we don't even need, according to some people, we don't even need a Beit Din Gadol B'Minyanu V'Chochma. Usually to change a halacha, to change something, you need a Beit Din that's even greater in numbers and in wisdom. There's a whole machloket. This is a fascinating topic. I think maybe we should get into this also. When one of our deep dives, I said maybe we'd do some deep dives instead of just moving along. But it's a fascinating thing. When does halacha change? When does it not change? Rav Aryeh Carmel, in one of those journals, found like 40 or 50 cases where halacha from the Gemara changes in the time of the Rishonim, and why. So generally we would need a Beit Din that's superior in numbers. Numbers means both the numbers of the rabbis in the world there's two opinions. One says the numbers of the Beit Din itself, and one people says the people around, who's the community who supports the Beit Din. And what does Chochmah mean? Is it the head of the Beit Din, or is it the entirety of Beit Din? How do you evaluate the wisdom of a Beit Din? Is it that there's one great Gadol, the Rosh Beit Din, is enough, or do you need everybody in the Beit Din to be superior to change halacha? But in this case, there's a specific reason given for the decree, that the decree was made to enhance Shabbat observance. If you need laundry on Friday for Shabbos, it enhances your Shabbat observance to do your laundry on Shabbos. It's exactly, Ezra was just trying to be mechabed Shabbat. If you're doing laundry on Friday, unless you're doing it so you don't have to do it on Sunday, but I imagine if you're doing laundry on Friday, if you're in the middle of preparing for Shabbos, it's something you need, or even to get the smelly laundry out of the way is kavod Shabbat. To make Seder in your house is kavod Shabbat, right? So the Shmirat Shabbat allows it. I sent you a picture in the Piskei Tshuvot, at the end, right at the end, I left it here? Here. At the end, Rav Menashe Klein Rabbi Menashe Klein, Katan, he calls himself. It's pretty great. Rabbi Menashe Klein was one of the three friends, Eli Wiesel, Rabbi Professor David Weiss Halivni, one of the greatest Talmud scholars of this alive. Amazing, also a sweet old man. I love him. I like to see him. There were three friends, and from Hungary, Siget, and after the Shoah, they all went three very different directions. Eli Wiesel went in his direction. Halivni he had a little piece. Halivni had a little piece of his name was Weiss back then. He Hebraicized it. He had a piece of 1 page of Gemara that he had with him throughout those Shoah years. And anywhere he went, he would offer people to learn a little Gemara with him, and they would learn that page. But Menashe Klein was the third, and the three of them would stayed friends. They used to get together. And he writes to him, because you asked me, the Mechaber of the Piskei Tshuva, because you asked me to give my opinion, I like your book, he gave him a haskama, but he says, I have a problem with what you wrote about laundry on Erev Shabbos, for three main reasons. You saw it? Did anybody look at it, what I sent? I sent it this week on the WhatsApp. One reason is, not everybody in the world has laundry machines. Not every Jew has a laundry machine. So there still is reason for Ezra's Takana. You can't say, 95% of the Jewish people have laundry machines, so that we just get rid of the... It's not really Batel Hatam until there's really Batel Hatam. Like, for example, Mayim Megulim, water that was left uncovered. In the time of the Gemara was Asur, because maybe a snake would inject the venom in it. The Tosfot says that we don't have snakes that inject venom in our water, so there's no reason to Asur it. That the facts have changed for the entire Ashkenazi community. Okay? Same thing with the Mayim Achronim, okay? So that's one reason. Another reason, what if the laundry machine breaks? I gave this Dvar Halacha in the Ohel a couple of years ago. We were doing Hilchot Shabbat at the end of Shabbat morning davening, and Shai Perlman goes up to me. He's not usually there. He says, I can't believe it. Yesterday my laundry machine just broke. We had a flood. It was chaos. It ruined Erev Shabbos. Everything was meshuga. How often? So Rav Menashe Klein writes, one reason is that it's not really Batel Hatam. Two, that what if the machine breaks and then it's worse than if you even started it if you never started it in the first place. And three is that the Batel Hatam, that the reason for Gzera is no longer current. It doesn't mean that the takana doesn't exist, and he shows that it's not so clear what the Shmirat Shabbat was posek. That if as soon as there's no reason, you can get rid of it. So he says, don't do laundry on Fridays.
Why can't you say if you have a laundry machine, so you can do?
To be mechalek. He says that he brings proof. I can send you also the letter. You want to see it? He says, what do you do if you don't have a laundry machine? Or what if you do? You're in a nidach place without a laundry machine. Well, you've never been in a place without a laundry machine on a Friday?
No, so then you can say. So then you're
to be mevatel the tam, he proves from Rav Himnuna and the Gemara in Eruvin that there needs to be a complete lack of that reason for the takana. Anyway, it's a takana of Ezra that I think everybody can feel comfortable. If you need to do laundry on Friday, you can rely on Shmirat Shabbat Hilchot, or Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was his Rebbe, and we really can rely on that. But if you don't need to, it might be nice to follow his opinion. And just to devote, to plan ahead during the week. If you listen, make laundry a part of your Kavod Shabbat by doing it earlier in the week, and then you're putting the laundry in so that you can get it done before Friday. So Friday you're free to do other things, and and have everything done by chatzot. So after chatzot, you can just sit and go to the mikveh, have a nap, you make your fish, everything's set, the kids aren't crazy, everything's perfect.
Why? I
Maybe-
have to see this.
No, those are customs. Those are customs to go to the mikveh, take a nap, shnai mikra, shiurim with a cloth, you know.
And a
Bezrat
mandolin.
Hashem.
A
What?
clap and a mandolin.
Yeah, we had a shiurim cloth in the oil. It blessed us to get it back another time, or somewhere else. It's no longer with us, but Bezrat Hashem. Anyway, the idea that you could be doing your laundry and it's part of your mitzvah of kavod Shabbat, preparing for Shabbos and injecting Shabbat energy into your laundry experience. I don't know. Maybe it'll help. If you, I don't know, maybe none of you have to do any laundry, but you were folding today, right?
Yeah, it's today Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. No, you were doing it, getting it out of the way for Shabbos. Remember, in those days, doing laundry was significant work. Significant work. Okay, should we do the Ramah? Do we have a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the Ramah, Hagaot Ramah. Remember last time I said the Ramah put down his own book, buried his own sefer to preserve Jewish unity. The Ramah put down his sefer to preserve Jewish unity, and added his tablecloth to the Shulchan Aruch. So, נוהגים ללוש כדי שיעור חלה בבית, לעשות מהם לחמים, לפצוע עליהם בשבת ויום טוב. We have a custom to knead dough enough to make to be mafrish chala, to separate a little bit of the dough in your home, babayit. לעשות מהם לחמים, to make breads, לבצוע עליהם, to rake those breads, to have those breads for the lechem mishnah on Shabbat and Yom Tov. והוא מכבוד שבת ויום טוב ואין לשנות. This is kavod Shabbos, and we shouldn't change that minhag. Although in modern days, some people say when there's bakeries and they might be better, you're allowed to get from bakeries, and because that's kavod Shabbat, right? But the idea is to make that, and this is יש שכתבו שבמצוות מקומות נהגו לאכול מוליטה שקוראים פשטידה, קוגל, or quiche. But here, this is not just a regular quiche, a double layered quiche, because to eat that zecher laman, שהיה מכוסה למעלה ולמטה, it was covered above and below, so it's more like a shepherd's pie. You put down that dough on the bottom, and you put in all your stuff in the middle, and cover it up with
potatoes.
And that's maharil. V'lo ra'iti lachush b'zeh. Maharil is, like I told you, Maharil and Trumat Hadeshen are the two of the main poskim that the Ramah talks about. He says, I don't see lachush b'zeh, although you see in the Mishnah Berurah, he says, v'mkomotenu haminhag le'ochlan. In our country, it is the custom to have a good crispy kugel, crispy on the bottom, crispy on top. If you really want to be mechabit Shabbos, I once had unbelievable potato kugel with brisket in the middle.
Polish chichon, they call it.
Polish chichon?
Polish chichon.
Oh,
Wow.
it was good kiddush. It was good kiddush.
Well, you didn't
But
do the combination.
I didn't make it. Somebody brought it to kiddush once, and it was
Toronto?
in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, the Los Angeles people take their kiddush seriously. Toronto, they bring the good whiskeys, but in Los Angeles, it's like a smorgasbord. Anyway,
It's a full Shabbat meal there.
it's like, you could have a whole Shabbat meal. So molita, pashtida, hafrashat challah. So a few things about a frashat challah. Why should we do a frashat challah on Erev Shabbos? So again, I jotted down a bunch of ideas from a few different sources. the Sefer Chinuch says that the Truma is giving a little bit to the Kohen, so what we're doing is we're enacting that way that we used to be, to connect to the Avodah, the Beit HaMikdash. When we take a little bit of challah, we create our home, Babayit, you saw in the Ramah, he says Babayit, it becomes a little bit of a Beit HaMikdash energy in that space. So in the name, the Sefer Chinuch doesn't say that the house becomes Beit HaMikdash, but he says it's the Zecher, the Truma that given to the Kohanim, and the certain rabbis, I don't remember where I saw it, but I saw that once, that's one of the reasons to be mafresh challah before Shabbat. Beit HaMikdash is holiness of space, Shabbat is holiness of time, connecting the two is very special. Also the Sefer Chinuch talks about ipuk, holding back. When we're thinking about Shabbos, we're like, oh, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. I made a great herring I got from the shuk. We're excited about the physical pleasures of Shabbat. We should a little bit of holding back, a little bit of restraint, a little bit of putting away, giving to others. Ready-made, because by the way, also Shem and Zayt, we don't give olives to the Kohanim for Truma, we give the olive oil, right? We want to be ready-made. The Kohanim shouldn't have to work too hard, right? Challah, we already give them your dough, not the kemach and the water, and you give them, it's ready to go, So,
how did I mitzvah look back in the day? Because it's like, you live, let's say in Pardes Chana, the Kohanim are in Yerushalayim.
they're all over. No, the Kohanim were, there was Kohanim everywhere.
Uh-huh.
They took turns in Yerushalayim. They had shifts.
One week a year.
Yeah, 1 week a year.
Yeah. So in other words, so the Kohanim would kind of get challah from everyone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They would get pieces of dough.
They get ready, a batch of dough, ready to go. Just gotta put it in your oven. Just gotta put it
They
in your
run the
oven.
zoos and the bakery.
I mean, when you think about it, though, it's like it's supposed to be like 1/50th, right?
Well, okay, so
It just like on a practical level, it seems a little bit strange.
no, the shiur of challah is really not given anything directly in the Torah. I think you might be thinking of the truma, right?
Okay.
But this is one of the 24 gifts of to the Kohanim. So it's 24 gifts of the Kohanim, 24 kishutei kala, the decorations or the adornments of the Shekhinah. When we give to the Kohanim, it's decorating the Shekhinah in our world. I once had a dream that I poured wine for this Rav Chaim Cohen, the Chalban. I was pouring him wine with all the kavanas of the 24 mitzvahs to give to the Kohanim. I don't know the kavanas, but in my dream I knew the kavanas, and I was having those kavanas. And when I told him, he said, "Yeah," because he was giving a lot of, he was giving over a lot of pnimiut, a lot of inner dimension of Torah, and I was like, yeah. Anyway, also listen, it's brought down that the gashmiut ruchaniut connection. You have kemach, you have flour. It's like the body, and the water is like the sort of more of the soul. And kneading them together, lalush, to knead it together, brings unity. Takes the little flecks of grain, little wheat berries, and you grind it up, and you bring it together. It creates one gush, one clump of dough, and that's a unification of the body and the spirit. Also, emuna, that the parnasa is not only in our hands; it's brought down in a few places. If you take the word isa, I like gematrias, but it's not the main thing. But if you take the word Isa as 145, Ayin Yud Samachay, you take Chala as 43, you take Chala out of Isa, you're left with Emunah, 102. If you're mafresh Chala, you minus Chala from Isa, you're left with 102, which is Emunah, which is kind of dandy. The Gemara, the Midrash Rabbah in Tazria says that Frashat Chala is Bitul Avodah Zarah. Didn't we say that the Torah brings down, you keep Shabbat, it's like you're Mavatel, you're Mochalin lo afilu Shabbat Avodah Zarah. So Frashat Chala is also Bitul Avodah Zarah. It goes back to the beginning of creation, that Chava ate from the tree and basically she ruined the challah. The human being is like the challah of Hashem. So now she's rectifying the challah. Also, it's brought down. It's Magdil Kvod Hashem Ba'olam. Hafrashat challah is Magdil Kvod Hashem Ba'olam. Kvod Hashem Alayich Nigla. Shabbos is Kvod Hashem. What better Kvod Hashem time is Shabbos? So to do Hafrashat challah the Kvod Shabbat is also very special. Actually, in the Rambam, if you look at the Rambam, one of the commentaries is Hagot Maimoniot. You see it some places, not every page. Like there's a Kesef Mishnah, the Lechem Mishnah, Mishnah Melech. So there's Hagot Maimoniot, and he says it says on the Rambam. He says that Hafrashat challah is shkula keneged kol mitzvot, like it's not one of those all-encompassing mitzvahs. Remember there was an anan on the tent of Sarah.
Like the Indian bread?
No.
Anan kashu. Nan. There was an anan. The anan, the Ramban says, is a symbol of divine presence, Hashrat Shechina. And so when we're mafresh challah in our home before Shabbat, it brings this cloud of Hashem's glory that was on the Mishkan, on Sarah's tent, right? Hashrat Shechina in our home.
It sounds like they're all saying that men are doing it. He didn't make any mention.
He didn't mention that it was the women, but I think it's pretty well known that mostly the women were doing that. But you could do it. Actually, it's brought down in halacha that a man should at least do it once in his life.
Once his life?
At least once.
There's lots of baking.
At least once in your life to do yourself, do the mitzvah of Hafrashat challah. I've seen that in halachic works. I don't want to go in. We could do challah. I did challah for about a year in the Ohel of Shabbat morning. Hilchot challah, Hafrashat challah. That was one of them. I'm not going. Just a little bit. It's halachically it's used as a proof. The mitzvah of challah of when people in space, Ilan Ramon, when should he make kiddush? When should a Jewish astronaut make kiddush and do Shabbat and davening times? If you're like going around orbit so many times, what every half an hour you're gonna have Shabbos, you're like. So when do you do kiddush? When do you do kiddush? So there was a bunch of opinions. One opinion, this was even in the 60s, there were books written about this when space travel started. One opinion was you do it Yerushalayim time. If you're in space, you do it Yerushalayim time. One opinion was the last place you were, that was on Earth. That the Torah is given on the Earth and not in space, so the last place you were on the Earth is with the timing. The opinion that was won out was based on Hilchot challah, that if a boat is connected by a rope to Eretz Yisrael, the flour on that boat is chayav in challah. And there's a rope connecting. Even if it's in the middle of the sea, that rope connects it. So they said that Houston controls the space shuttle. Houston, we have a problem, right? It's like a rope. They're controlling so that would be, you would do Houston time.
Wow.
Anyway, I thought it was interesting, but not. Rabbi Nachman in Torah Nun Hey says that Hafrashat challah brings the zchut avot and leads us to Eretz Yisrael. It's an Eretz Yisrael thing, Hafrashat challah. In Chutz La'aretz, we only do it in Chutz La'aretz so that we don't lose the mitzvah, right? That's what's brought down. I'm sure there's other reasons, spiritual reasons, but it's one of those things where it's brought explicitly. It's only so we don't forget it in Chutz La'aretz.
Is it like a Ramban? That kind of like
all
everything
yeah, famous Ramban that all Torah mitzvot and Chutz La'aretz is practice. If some people say he didn't really mean it like that, he just meant that there's another level that you're not getting.
And he said that in Chutz La'aretz.
Well, he got to Eretz Yisrael then in his life. He got to Yerushalayim. There were 2 Jews in Yerushalayim. They didn't have a big Knesset. So he bought a storefront or whatever. He built up a big knesset in Yerushalayim, the Ramban.
He's buried in Eretz Yisrael?
No, I think he left.
Okay.
Oh, he's never here.
Oh, I forgot to say that the thing about the spirit and the body coming together and we need it together is from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I should have said that. Excuse me. Anything I say, please forgive me if I don't get the right names. They should forgive me too. I should try hard. Okay. Likutei Halachot.
It's 10:20.
10:20. You want to grab the Likutei Halachot from behind you there? There's 3 of them right behind you. Right behind you. We could look at it inside. We could look at it inside. Everybody's okay?
מה?
Yeah, I need to go.
כן? למרי?
Okay, and before we get to the Likutei, we'll end with the Likutei Halachot. Just one thing: the Kosher Magid, the Avodat Yisrael, the Kosher Magid, it's brought down in Tivot Shalom. He says the mitzvah of Challah begins with when you're entering into the land, you do the Challah. He says when you're entering into anything that is the land, artzi, is physical, material stuff, like you're preparing for Shabbos, be mafresh Challah. When you're entering into physical enjoyments, you have to check yourself that you're not just serving yourself, that you're really serving Hashem. You're not just serving yourself. Yeah, I'm good at Oneg Shabbos. I'm having that fish, right? Am I serving Hashem or am I serving my taste buds and my belly? And obviously, we want to do both together. We want to be able to serve Hashem with our pleasure. There's nothing, the Baal Shem Tov talks about it a lot. Raising up our physical pleasures, connecting to Hashem with those physical pleasures. But you have to be careful. So you be mafresh challah when you're about to enter into physical celebration. And he says the Netivot Shalom brings from some of the Lechovitz, I think, Lechovitzer, that when it says arisotechem, it could be translated to mean your dough, or it could be translated to mean your beds,
Arisa, a baby.
Arisa, your bed. Arso eres barzel, right? So the two main taivot, Hafrashat Challah is supposed to be to fix those taivot to make sure that we're doing it really l'shem shamayim. Food and the bedroom. And so on Shabbos, okay, Rabbi Natan, Parashat Challah, Shlach Lecha, Parashat Shlach Lecha, I think there's 4 of them there, and it's Rabbi Natan Shlach in the end of Shlach, midway towards the end of Shlach. Remember, this is these are one of the 3 mitzvahs of Nisuch Hayayin, Challah, and Tzitzit that were a tikkun for the Meraglim.
And here it's I don't know if it's the same pagination, but Kuf Samech Beit. Yeah, Kuf Samech Beit.
Wait, but where in the...
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Yeah, Reshit, Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Kaf. Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Kaf. Rabbi Natan, who's going to read? Likutei Halachot. Reshit arisotechem chala tarimu truma. Somebody?
Yeah. What is it?
One of the Israelis.
It doesn't make a difference.
No, the other right.
What's that? Perek Tet Zayin, or Tet Vav? I can't. Perek Tet Vav, Pasuk Chaf. Rabbi Natan, Likutei Halachot. Chavos. Yeah.
בגלותינו הארוך שעובר עלינו מה שעובר, בכלליות ובפרטיות, should I translate or just...
Yeah, go for it.
The whole galut, right, that's passing us right now, בכלליות ובפרטיות, meaning the national universal galut, and also the prati galut, which every single one of us is going through, צרות מצרות שונות, אשר כמעט אפס תקווה חס ושלום. It feels as though there is no hope. על כן אין לנו עתה שום חיות כי אם התקווה והתוחלת והרצון החזק אליו יתברך. We have nothing left besides hope, hoping and
תוחלת, לחלות is to yearn for, to hope, right?
actually I didn't know that word, והתוחלת. והתוחלת והרצון החזק אליו יתברך, שהוא בחינת הארת הרצון. Hashem is the one that awakens our רצון. מבחינת מה תאירו, מה תאורו את האהבה עד שתחפץ. מה תאירו, מה תאורו את האהבה עד שתחפץ.
Awaken the love until the desire, until you get there. Basically, we have a lot of words in Hebrew for desire. Chefetz, tikva, the kavot, the chalot is one of them. And so he's saying that chala is about awakening some sort of yearning, some sort of desire, some sort of passionate tzipiyah, kivui, yichul. All these words, yichul, I guess is the same as the chalot, right? Yichul and the chalot is from the same.
Same shortish.
Right? Something about tochelet, okay? Basically, we want to awaken our desire and our yearning for Hashem, for our beloved.
כי אף על פי שנדמה כבר להסית האחרה שפעלה הרבה וביטלה אותנו מכמה קדושות בכלליות ובפרטיות.
We think that the other side has beat us because, we might have fallen here or there, we might feel down, we might feel like we'd rather be more connected, I wish I wouldn't have gotten angry today, we feel like it's over, like the other side has me in a headlock, and I can't get out.
על ידי חורבן בית המקדש ועל הגלות, אף על פי כן לא הועילה כלום, כי עדיין החפץ והרצון לכיסופים שלנו מחזקים ותקיפים מאוד עליו יתברך.
We still have this deep desire, yearning to Hashem. It's not over. Like Hulk Hogan, when I was a kid, used to be in that headlock or whatever, and getting beaten down, and then getting building up that little spark, and then you can awaken victory. Can't believe I just went there.
So now you mentioned Hulk Hogan as well.
It's late, you're tired, it's okay.
He's an incredible Hulk. ומאה חושב הרצון לקדושה.
He had a gartel and everything.
So what's he saying?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's all good. So מאה חושב הרצון לקדושה חזק מאוד, אז בוודאי לא יעילו. In other words, the רצון is so strong that nothing can destroy it. עם כל ההסתות והפיתויים והביבולים והמניעות, כי כולם התבטלו מחמת תוקף הרצון. Nothing stands before the רצון.
Remember when we said with the fish, it's brought down that it ignites he'arat haratzon, the illumination of our inner will, which is, and also here chala is also an he'arat haratzon. So the two, using Rabbi Natan to understand why the Ramah brought this in here and not in Reish Nun, when he talks about the things to do to prepare for Shabbos, maybe Min HaShamayim it was something to do with that, to ignite the ratzon, the passion for Shabbos, the yearning for Shabbos, the excitement for getting ready for Shabbat, bringing that Shabbat light into the everyday week is amazing. Which is why Beit Shammai, remember we talked about last time, the Gemara in Masechet Beitzah, about where Beit Shammai would find an animal and say, I'm saving it for Shabbos, and the Hillel would say, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, this is today's thing. And there's tons of beautiful teachings about that, if anybody wants. Maybe also, if you want, I could send the Chassidut on that, but there's a lot. You can find it in the Maharal, beautiful things in the Maharal, and I have other books.
וזה בחינת מצוות חלה שתקנו רבותינו ז"ל, גם בחוץ לארץ, בכדי שלא תתבטל תורת חלה. כי עיקר הערת הרצון לקדושה זוכים לקבל בשעת האכילה.
Oh, say it again.
עיקר הערת הרצון לקדושה זוכים לקבל בשעת האכילה.
The essence of illuminating our inner elevated will, our the inner aspect of Keter, is while we're eating in Kedusha.
ועל ידי מצוות חלה נתקנת האכילה שיזכו לקבל על ידה הערת הרצון.
So through Hafrashat Chala, before Shabbat, we're somehow fixing all of our eating so that we're ready to eat on Shabbat in a way that is just so high and holy. Just so high and holy. In the Oneg, Emuna, Ratzon, these are the highest. So by doing a little bit of Chala, Erev Shabbat, we're really fixing all of our eating so that our eating on Shabbat can be just otherworldly, beyond this world, beyond. Which is, by the way, why, back to the fish, one of the things I didn't mention about the fish, why isn't fish one of the things of the Merkava? We have a shore, we have an ox, we have an eagle representing the birds, we have the human. Why don't we have a fish if the fish are so special? So it's brought down that the fish are me'olam atzilut, beyond even the Merkava. Beyond the Merkava. So fish and challah are both, fish and challahs, if you know a little bit of Arabic?
None. Arabic?
Arabic. An American is going to Hebron for Shabbos, and he realizes on the way, it's almost Erev Shabbos, he left his bag of food. So he stops at the Arab Makolet on the way to Hebron, and he says, and the guy says, mafish chalas. He says, oh, yes, exactly, that's what I want. It means no more. I don't have anything. Finished. On that note, we should all have a great Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
I can give you a ride. I can give you a ride.
Yeah.
I can give you a ride.
No?
Yeah, we're right. It seems like we're up in.
Yeah. I don't know if this will ever be out there, but if we do, thanks for joining.